Welcome to Barbara Lowin presents Alma Mahler in Outrageous with pianist Richard Danley. We're delighted to have you all joining us tonight at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library. My name is Tim Smith and I'm a supervising librarian at SNFL and your host this evening. Before I introduce tonight's guests, I would like to thank the Stavros Niarchos Foundation for making programs like this possible. I would also like to remind you that if you don't already have a library card, it's easy to get one by speaking with my colleagues just outside this room after the program or visiting any information desk. Finally, I would like to encourage you to visit NYPL's website and take a look at upcoming 7 Stories programs. We have an excellent lineup this season, including programs featuring new fiction and non-fiction, live music, and more. We would love to have you join us in this space again. And it's now my pleasure to introduce tonight's guests. After 10 years as a child star in her native Toronto, a Bachelor of Music from the Juilliard School, and participation in the masterclasses with the legendary soprano Maria Callas, Barbara Lowin sang opera, operetta, song recitals, orchestra concerts, and made numerous appearances with CBC TV in Canada. She appeared at the New York City Opera with Julius Rudal, the New York Philharmonic with Pierre Boulez, and has sung for Queen Elizabeth II, as well as Presidents George W. Bush and Gerald Ford. In Europe, she made frequent appearances with the Welsh National Opera and the orchestras of Dusseldorf and Duisburg. Having a particular passion for songs, whether Beethoven, Mozart, Gershwin, or Cole Porter, she embraced the art of cabaret and has performed her solo shows in many of the intimate clubs in Midtown Manhattan. A native of Washington, D.C., Richard Danley graduated from Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. After working at some of the most prestigious hotels in Washington, he moved to New York City, where he promptly became music director for the Festival of Singing Soap Opera Stars. With Kim Zimmer of Guiding Light, he was featured in Broadway and Barbershop in 1990 and 91 productions at Carnegie Hall. In Geneva, Switzerland, he was music director for reviews of the Best of Broadway for the Telcom Convention. He's appeared on the soap operas Guiding Light and As the World Turns, and he was the founder and conductor of the West Side Choral of NYC. Among the notables he has worked with include Kitty Carlisle-Hart, Pat Boone, Julia Wilson, Michael Tilson Thomas, and Broadway stars Leah Salonga, Brian Stokes Mitchell, and Audra McDonald. He's a faculty member of the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in NYC, serving as director of accompanists and musicianship chairman. His most recent off-Broadway show was as musical director for An Enchanted April, a new musical, preceded by Spamilton, an American parody. So without further ado, it's now my pleasure to welcome tonight's guest.
Well, finally we are together. It is a pleasure to have you here tonight, where I can share with you my memoir before I am sending them to the publisher. Oh, yes, my good friend, as you know, Richard Danley. We are very long-time old friends and have done many rehearsals and music together, so I know he will help me to tell my story. Now, I'm sure you are here because you would like to know all about Mahler. Well, yes, of course, who does not? But perhaps you would like to know a little about me, about my life, about my loves, about the men in my life. Men find fidelity charming. I only smile with regret. New love is always disarming. Habit can bore one to death. Yesterday's tender obsession has ended before it's begun. I never cared for possession. Convention makes so little fun. I don't know to whom I'll be faithful, for I'm too impulsive for one man alone. And each time I swear to be faithful, I know that another will cause me to roam. And since the sun and the moon shine for all who behold them, my virtues, my vices, why should I withhold them? I don't know to whom I'll be faithful. Perhaps I'll be faithful to myself alone. Well, thank you. Memoir. I was born in Vienna very many years ago, 1879. My family, well, it was upper middle class. Excuse me, you will say bourgeois. My father was a well-known painter of landscapes. He was wonderful. You can see today almost all his paintings in the great art museums of Austria. Oh, I adored him. I often sat by his side when he worked at his easel. So, of course, when he died unexpectedly, I only 13, well, of course, I was devastated. With my mother, I was less friendly. She had been an operetta singer and was having an affair with my father's protege, the painter Karl Moll, who was right there, ready to marry her upon my father's death. Oh. Well, as for me, I was talented, I was well-read, well-educated, I was opinionated and outspoken. And if I may say, I was quite pretty, and all the young men took notice of me, older men as well, took notice of me, and do not think I did not notice them also. At the grown-up dinner parties of my parents, I was often seated across the table from a family friend, the painter Gustav Klimt. He was very attractive. I was, of course, very attracted to him. One time on a family vacation in Italy, to my quite surprise, Klimt was there as well. One evening there came a quiet scratching on the door of my room in our pension. It was Klimt. I went, he took me in his arms. Oh, Mr. Klimt, oh, you make me to feel very light-headed. I have never been kissed before. Oh dear, what will my mother think? Oh, it does not really matter. She has never felt like this. Do you know that every girl, every woman in Vienna wants the privilege to be just near to you? I was 17. He was 34. Do you know my mother found my diary in which I had revealed of the unexpected visit of Klimt? She read it, and she had the nerve to reproach me. Oh, she saw that Klimt and I will never be alone together. In spite of my adolescent philandering, I was quite serious when it came to my composition. I wanted terribly, wait a moment, I think I have jumped from a page, yeah. I was lucky, to study with the great teacher and composer Alexander von Zemlinsky. He was such a homely little dwarf, but he had such a passion for his music, composition, and for encouraging me. As a matter of fact, he and I enjoyed together a rather enthusiastic gspoozy, but I felt, gspoozy? That is a little fling. But I felt if I were to marry him, we will produce children that will be short and very homely. Not good at all for me. Yes. Well, at a dinner party now, 1901, someone caused some inconsequential laughter, and from the other end of the table came a loud and bombastic voice which said, "What is so funny?" When party was over, I found myself being walked home by that very voice of bombast. It was that of the Herr Professor Dr. Music Director of the entire Vienna Court Opera, Gustav Mahler. Well, he was a great deal older than I and asked me many questions about myself. My favorite composer? Oh, yes, I know that you compose music as well as direct the opera company. Tell me, they say that you are very demanding for perfection and rehearsals. Is this really true? If I may say, I find you to be rather yielding, may I say, even a little awkward. My passion? Oh, my passion is to compose music. I love it. I am lucky to study with the great teacher and composer Alexander von Zemlinsky. We know each other very well. We have many lessons together. I love his music. Well, let me see, perhaps. So that is really where it began. You would like to know a little about our respective philosophical outlook? Well, you must know that I was a typical young Viennese woman for the time. I was restrained, I was rather quiet, I was conservative, I was a Catholic. Mahler knew that as a Jew, he will never be given the position of the director over the august Vienna Court Opera. So he was pragmatic. He made a religious conversion to Catholicism. Well, perhaps I too was pragmatic, because to my surprise, I accepted his sudden proposal of marriage. Well, what made me to accept this quite awkward man? Was I pixilated by an older, more experienced musician? Maybe I felt a little superior to him. Or maybe I felt a little bit of contempt by his need to grovel and make a religious conversion. I was young. I was pretty. He will always be a little bit worried. Well, I accepted and we became engaged. Then I received this letter from my chevalier. I ask only one thing of you, Miss Schindler, Miss Alma, that you give up your composition. Oh, the demands on me professionally are almost insurmountable. The opera house leaving me so little time to do my own composition. I am so much in need of your support. I wrote immediately back to him and asked him how he could ever ask me to give up what was my great passion, to compose music. Nevertheless, I acquiesced, and I married him. Oh, yes, because I had already given of myself to him. I was pregnant. Well, so I took him. Well, naturally, we had a child immediately, a little girl, followed by another one 3 years later. In addition to raising 2 children and running a home for a needy and demanding husband who worked relentlessly, having also been forbidden to practice my passion, I began to feel resentful, neglected, often enraged. God, I sit down to the piano dying to play, but my eyes have forgotten even how to read music. He notices nothing of all this has cost me. I am no more than a housewife. And just as I feared, I began to suffer many emotional symptoms. I felt overactive heartbeat, strange dizzying headaches, weakness near to even to fainting. I was diagnosed with neurasthenia, what today we'll call the vapors. Well, because of this, my husband sent me to a spa for a cure. And it was at one of these spas that I met a man. young, handsome German, an Aryan, a man who was an architect, who was beginning a school of art and architecture that will eventually be called Bauhaus. He was Walter Gropius. I was not at all troubled by his rather indifference to music. Oh no, he excited me. He validated me. I felt young as I had not felt in years. My God. Yeah, I felt inspired. Excuse me, as I had not been inspired in years. My God, I can suddenly sit to the piano, to play again, to make music again. Oh, I feel young, renewed, revived. I must have his child. Well, then a letter from Mahler. My dearest Almschi, it is my hope that your stay in the spa is putting you into a state of serenity and relaxation. I continue with my work as always, but I am so much in need of your inspiring presence. The children and I are all in need of you. And so I returned home and to Mahler. And at the same time, Gropius continued to send me passionate love letters. Then one day, Mahler asked me to come into his studio. Good morning, darling. Yes, a letter? You want me to read it, but darling, it is addressed to you. Oh God, I recognized the handwriting. It was that of Gropius. Had he made an absent-minded mistake? Or had he done this intentionally? Well, I had no choice. I have to open and read this letter aloud. My good dear new friend, Alma, can I tell you how much your womanliness has thrust me into pure and sensual heaven? The seduction in your voice and your body of eternal femininity, the scent of you during our nights together. Yes, Gustav, this man is interested, very interested in me. Oh, I promised you. I promised, as I said, I would kept quietly to myself in the spa, and I was introduced to Mr. Gropius. He was quiet and calm. It was a pleasure suddenly to meet someone who took an interest in me. To you, I have become merely a housewife. I see your meals are ready on time. I do your bookkeeping. I am copying your music. And you notice nothing of all this has cost me. Yes, you have noticed nothing of all this has cost me. You know you are utterly self-centered. Well, Mahler himself was so overwrought by the mere suggestion of an affair that he consulted a psychiatrist of the day, Dr. Sigmund Freud. Now, Freud's analysis was that I was in search of a mentor and father figure, well, perhaps, but that Mahler was in search of a housekeeper, a mother figure. Well, housekeeper I may have been, but mother figure? Preposterous, really. Quite suddenly, he insisted that we revisit some of my compositions, which had now lain dormant for so many years. They are really very good. We shall see that they are published. Yeah. La, la, la. Yeah, I remember. La, la, la. La, la, la. I wondered what brought about his change of mind about my composition. Was he threatened and jealous of Gropius, or had he been moved by what he had asked of and done to me as an artist? Yeah. And then came a tragedy. Our firstborn daughter, only 7, contracted diphtheria, and poor little thing has died. Well, we were devastated. Mahler was able to bury his grief by finishing a group of songs he had begun many years before on the death, ironically, on the death of children, known as the Kindertotenlieder. Well, I, having given up my own passion, where was I to bury my grief? Things then took a turn for the better when a letter came from the Metropolitan Opera of New York, asking Mahler to become its director. You see, Mahler's terrible demands for perfection and rehearsal and so on had become impossible for the Vienna Opera to tolerate. So off to New York we went. He made his New York debut on New Year's Day of 1908, and to my greatest joy, it was Tristan und Isolde by my beloved Richard Wagner. Oh, yes, wonderful. Da, 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 da. Well, fine. Unfortunately, when Toscanini arrived to the Metropolitan Opera, the clash of these two temperamental titans became impossible. So when Mahler was invited to become music director of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, he took this. And once again, wonderful relationship with the orchestra, exquisite of music making. Oh, the people loved us. We were invited to everywhere. Our social life was lively. We made so many friends. I suddenly found a fulfilling sense of purpose in my life, and I could be hostess to our many friends and colleagues and entertain in our beautiful hotel suite overlooking the Central Park. However, after the 4th season in New York, the heart ailment that had tracked Mahler all his life became critical. And on shipboard back to home in Austria for our usual summer holiday, he became very bad. And he died, only 50. Well, after Mahler's death, I felt both aggrieved and strangely liberated. Well, I was still healthy and only 32. I was a well-known city celebrity, and I began to conduct myself abundantly around Vienna. It is astonishing to me how many men there were suddenly wanting to court me, such as Johannes Hollensteiner, a Catholic priest, young, handsome. People suspected that he and I were engaged together in a schmoozy. Yeah, and then Dr. Joseph Fraenkel, who had been Mahler's physician in New York. Do you know he came 2 times to Vienna to propose marriage to me? Ridiculous. Marriage with him, ridiculous. However, I did retain him for my personal physician, naturally. But these, believe me, were only superficial flirts. Of course, I was a million miles from being ready to remarry, if ever again. But the taste of all this attention was to me like an opiate. And what was my reaction to all of this traffic? Some of my lovers are tender, others completely robust. Settling on only one lover, all my components could rust. Each of them tells me I make him happy, contented, inspired. Liberty gives me excitement. Constancy just makes me tired. I I don't know to whom I'll be faithful, for I'm just too healthy for one man alone. And each time I swear to be faithful, I know that another will cause me to roam. And since the sun and the moon shine for all who behold them, my virtues, my vices, why should I withhold them? I don't know to whom I'll be faithful, and so I'll be faithful to myself alone. Thank you. Yes. Well, barely 1 year after Mahler's death came a relationship with not the superficial flirts like I had been having, but one that was to remain quite serious and significant for all my life. It was that with the expressionist painter Oskar Kokoschka. Oh, it was tempestuous and passionate. We were highly attracted to one another, but frankly, temperamentally together, just impossible. Yes, my dear Oskar, you know I am in love with you, but where do you have the nerve to propose marriage to me continually when you know I am so recently a widow? He pursued me passionately and relentlessly for 2 more years until 1914. I learned the inconvenient reality I was to have his child. Well, I will have to do something drastic for this. And another inconvenient reality. Oskar, have you not heard that war has broken out? Will it not be the proper thing for you to enlist in our army and go to support and help to save our beloved Austria? Well, this he did probably to satisfy me. But when he returned many months later, by this time he had sustained a terrible head wound. And also, by this time, I could no longer stand his constant pursuit of me. I was exhausted and I lost interest. Well, he was devastated. He made one bizarre obsession. He had a doll made, a large, life-size doll, a mannequin, which was exactly like me, with all of my features. And he took that creature everywhere he went. And yes, he made all of Vienna was actually laughing to him. Naturally, the whole thing was terribly grotesque. I thought he was crazy. Friends told me eventually that he made a effort at closure by took the doll to a party. Everyone doused it in red wine, cut off his head, threw it out to the street to a dumpster below. Oh, dear. Meanwhile, Gropius, you remember Gropius? He re-entered my life. And well, I married him in 1915. Well, look, the child that I had hoped to have with a handsome man, an Aryan man, well, it came true. We did. We had a daughter. We named her Manon. Oh, she was a dream, wondrous. She was bewitching. She was just like me. Gropius was totally committed to his work in Berlin and begged me to come to live with him there. But how could I leave my beautiful, beloved Vienna? And besides, as good and kind as he was, with such a lack of interest for music, well, he was boring. Well, excuse me, never mind. By this time, I had become Vienna's top of social hostess. In spite of war was continuing, I managed to entertain lavishly in my lovely home just on the outskirts of the romantic Vienna woods. And there I attracted every member of society, people from the theaters, writers, actors, dancers, musicians. I attracted also philosophers, people of the church. They all wanted to be to my salon. I was very taken with one particular visitor to my salon. It was with the Prague-born writer, author, historian, playwright, philosopher, Franz Werfel. Now, Werfel was really a star. His entire enormous body of work was read and loved all over Central Europe. And he was Jewish. Well, what drew me to Werfel? Well, what is it that draws a woman to a man? When I think of it, he was short and stocky, not really gifted for athletics or any other outdoor heroics. In fact, no. He enjoyed a more bohemian lifestyle and spent many hours every day in the back of dark and smoke-filled coffee house. With his friends, of course, other poets and writers, and they would spend all day reading papers, smoking, arguing, smoking those terrible cigars and drinking too much coffee, and arguing with one another to outwit one another with their rather terrible their self-deprecating humor. Typical of Jewish Vienna in the time, by the way. Is it any wonder today now, the notion of the coffee house wits? No, he had a high and noble forehead, hair that was just beginning to recede, and eyes that were beautiful, blue, sensual, seductive. And he was not burdened with that typical Jewish melancholy that is so much in need of a cheerful Aryan temperament. Oh yes, he loved music, and in the drop of a hat, ach ja, he will sit to the piano and play and sing operatic arias with his beautiful tenor voice. La, 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 la. Yeah, beautiful. Well, we gathered a rather stimulating large group of friends around us, and one of our frequent visitors was the radical and audacious composer Arnold Schoenberg. Now, as earnest as he was, will you believe that Schoenberg actually composed a group of light songs for the cabaret? Now, Werfel, with his bawdy sense of humor, was convinced that Schoenberg composed this song about us, with him, Werfel, of course, as the star. My dear lady friend has a black pussy cat with a fur that ripples so velvety. And I have one enormous great bald spot, spick and span, shiny and glistening. Oh, my lady friend's quite the voluptuous woman. Her stretch on her soft settee knows no end. Just stroking the fur of her cat while it's purring. My God, but she loves to rub her furry friend. When I come at evening to call on my lady, the languorous kitty looks out from her lap. Both nibble crumbs from the sweet honey cake how puss quivers when gently I stroke her nap. And when I turn lovingly toward my sweetheart, I hope that she'll play cat and mousey with me. Then I put the pussy on top of my bald spot. My lady friend pets it and cries out with glee. Oh. Well, naturally, with all of this frivolity, we were in love. We had so much in common, except for politics. We argued night and day like cats and dogs. You see, Werfel was what today you will call a liberal, someone willing to discard all of traditional values. He was often out in the streets with his friends, the other poets and writers, protesting on behalf of the underdog. Oh my God, my foolish little Bolshevik, look what you have done. Look to yourself. You are covered with soot and mud. Is this a cut over your eye? You are protesting. What on earth are you protesting? What do you want shall be changed? Look, look, look. Look to our neighbor, Germany, with the terrible depression following that war. But now everything is better. There is food to the family table. The men are out and working again, and they have a wonderful new leader. And all that in spite of that Versailles. And so it will be for us also in Austria. You will see, I promise you. Now look here, I cannot stand to see you looking like this. Go to the closet, please. Put a clean shirt, will you? And my politics, well, as you know me, I was conservative. Why can we not have the status quo? I may be an old-fashioned monarchist, but will it be so terrible if we still have our beloved and reliable emperor? At the same time, with all of this political distraction with Werfel was going on, I realized that my marriage with Gropius by now had become, superfluous, also kaputt. Yes, I still was legally married with Gropius. But when I suggested a divorce, well, of course, he was alarmed. Oh, he knew that the culprit was Werfel. Well, of course, he was very fond of Werfel and behaved with utter dignity on their occasional chance meetings of one another. Then, quite to my surprise, I learned I was to have another child. Oh. Well, when I gave birth to a baby boy in 1918, I knew it was Werfel's child, but was able to convince Gropius it was his. Well, whether he believed me or not, no argument, he just accepted. And yes, I wanted to say, this time, Gropius then traveled down from Berlin, and do you know both men visited me together in the hospital? Yes, often even at the same time. Yeah, well, sadly, this little boy whom I called Martin Gropius, became ill after several months, and he died. Well, with this, Gropius did agree to a divorce. After a number of years, Werfel and I finally decided we will marry. Now, with our considerable age difference, by now I was 50 and Werfel barely 40 years, I realized I must work very hard to appear young and energetic, to be able to keep up with him. Well, I needn't have worried, because Werfel seemed neither to notice nor care about my maturity. He was crazy about me. Yeah. Meanwhile, my beautiful Manon, do you remember Manon, favorite of all the children I had had? Poor little thing contracted polio, and after months of suffering, well, she died. I remember she looked to me from her little bed and said to me, "Mommy, please, just let me die. You will recover from this as you recover from all your tragedies." Oh God, the third child I had buried, my angel, my special angel. Then we began to hear rumors that our neighbor Germany, in spite of her impressive renaissance, had begun to engage in some worrisome social habits. Germany was said to take increasing prejudice against many minorities, communists, homosexuals, mentally ill, intellectuals, artists, religious leaders, Jews. Well, I did not worry too much about this, because we were not Germans, not living in Germany, but rather 100% Austrian. And as far as my husband was concerned, a Jew, yes, an intellectual, yes. Well, I was convinced he will be safe because he is married with me and I am a Catholic. However, to be just on the safe side, I did urge him strongly to make a religious conversion to Catholicism. But in the next several months, strange and troubling happenings began to occur in Vienna. Quite unexpectedly, I found a certain fear in the streets of my beautiful city, people rushing past one another, eyes turned down to avoid to look in one another, and greet in the good old gemütlich Viennese way. Well, began to feel return of my old complaint, neurasthenia, and I had to call to my doctor. Yeah, hello. Is this the office of Dr. Frankel? I do not recognize your voice. You are not his... He has closed his office, but why? No word to his patients. I am Frau Mahler. I am a long-time friend and patient. How can I speak with him directly? Right, very well. Oh, yes, hello. Hello. Lily, oh, good old friend. Have you heard what has happened with our Dr. Frankel? He has closed his office. No word to... Well, you sound to be as baffled as I am. Oh, dear. Look, let us relax. I will take tickets for the Rosé String Quartet, and we... Rosé Quartet is finished, gone, disbanded. But how can that be? What have they done with Arnold Rosé? This was one of Vienna's top most important musicians. You remember, he was Mahler's concertmaster even. Oh, dear. All right. Let us just meet Friday in Café Central. Together we will have a coffee. One morning, I go to my greengrocer's to buy some vegetables, and I see that his small shop is closed, and terrible slogans are written on his walls and his door. And then I see in the streets awnings and torn to shreds and cars overturned, and from the home of my neighbor, yes, Dr. Fischer, the banker, I see beautiful furniture, exquisite artwork being dragged to the streets, thrown to the back of trucks by horrible young men, soldiers. My God, not Austrian, but German soldiers. My goodness. then we hear of the suicide of Werfel's good old coffee house friend, the humorist and intellectual Egon Friedel. Friedel had been terrified of arrest, and one day he was in his apartment and he heard loud, savage footsteps coming up the stairs to his door and banging to his door and shouting out his name. And he went to his window and threw himself to the street below. Well, with this, I began to worry about the fate of my poor husband. He was trusting and naive. He was a poet and dreamer. Oh God, he should have made that religious conversion that I suggested. Well, now to protect Werfel, we will most likely have to leave Austria. We will go to France. So many of our friends now were doing. So, to France in 1938. Well, our first stop was the city of Lourdes. It was here that we heard a religious legend about a young maiden, Bernadette Soubirous, who claimed she had seen the Virgin Mary several times in a grotto in the woods. Well, I felt this was very interesting, so I urged Werfel to start to write about this, which he did, which became one of his most famous of novels, The Song of Bernadette. And then, oh, my goodness, then will you believe, Werfel suffers a terrible heart attack in one of these luxury accommodation, and it weeks of my caring for him before he was well enough that we can pack and leave secretly to yet another city and hotel. Oh dear. And then, this is not bad enough, becomes the so-called exit visa. Without this, no one could leave from France, go anywhere. Without this, the French could arrest us, do with us God knows what. So, what else to do but apply and wait? Oh, God. I thought to myself, why have I put myself in this terrible peril when really I can be living comfortably and safe in my home in the city Vienna? Why? Haha, love. The same excuse to stand or fall. Love. The same excuse to stand or fall. Does a heart know what it's doing when it's reaching out, crossing chasm over chasm on a sea of doubt? Laugh. Our joy was something new. Laugh. The joke's on me because of you. Live together, die together. Funny, that's what love's about. With a crane heart full of doubt. When a girl is born as a beauty, is she merely doing her duty? To be loved and to love is only doing what she's taught, or not? I have been accused of having a heartless heart that is made of stone. But, Franzel, at least I am never alone. Leave. When love declares I go, leave, but always with a man in tow. He needs mercy, inspiration. Now you hear my spirit shout, only my heart loves as my heart loves. A love that's full of doubt. Then quite suddenly, in June of 1940, the Germans did march in and occupied all of France. Now we must have those visas and get out of there. Where can we go? We can go now to Spain. And then, yes, worst of news. My darling, no visas for us. They have said there are no visas. This is all. We will die. We are stuck here. Oh. Yeah. Hello? Lotte? Darling, they have said also for you no visas? Well, we are stuck. This is the end of us. Rescuing committee from America? Mrs. Roosevelt? No. No, I don't. Mr. Fry? Varian Fry? No. I don't know the name. Franz, so come, listen. There is a plan to rescue us. Mr. Fry will take our luggages on a train into Spain and meet us there and return our luggages. Oh, what a big relief this turns. Excuse me, darling. How do we get ourselves into Spain? You realize those miserable... Really? Darling, I will talk with you later. Look here. Lotte says we will walk. I know these mountains. Do not worry. I will help you. Now, she is saying also that Heinrich Mann and his wife will walk. Max Ernst will walk. Even Chagall is going to walk. We can do it as well. Now, let me see what I will take. I will take some extra water. It will be hot. Little jewelry I have left. I will take some cigarettes in case of some impossible authority. Oh, God. And my scores, my Mahler and my Bruckner, they will come with me right on my person. No one shall touch them. Oh, dear. Yeah, Lotte warns me that it is a goat path. This is meaning climbing up and down. Yes, I know. I say I will help you. What? Darling, I know we are not goats. Please, will you save your humor for the coffee house, please? It was a hot September afternoon, and how I ever dragged my poor, terrified, overweight husband over those mountains, I will never know. I had continually to make humorous remarks about this terrible dilemma. Oh God, more goat jokes. Look here, myself, I was not a young woman. My shoes and my stockings and legs were covered with bruises, blood and cutting. We were hot, tired. We were old. But then finally success and Spain. Oh my God. And just as he promised, Mr. Fry was there with our luggages to return to us, and he saw to us the rest of our travel on now to America. Well, we traveled immediately to Los Angeles. No, first we arrived to New York Harbor, Hoboken, and there we were met by a large group of very curious press, but we said nothing, fear from reprisal of some sort. And then, yes, then we traveled immediately to Los Angeles. Why Los Angeles? There already was a large colony of European exiles, intellectuals, many writers and composers who by now had become members of the Hollywood movie profession. Well, in our little house in Los Angeles, we gathered on many nights seeking community and we wanted the respite of having the bitterness of leaving our homes. Yes, darling, everybody will be coming. I think Elsa and Bruno Walter, the Schoenbergs will come. Also, Lucy and Erich Wolfgang Korngold will come. Now let me see, what shall I cook? I will make a Wiener Schnitzel. I will make a cucumber salad. Perhaps a goulash, I don't know. And I will make a Sachertorte for the dessert. And what? The duck pate? Are you crazy? Do you know how terrible for your poor weak heart is that awful chicken fat? Well, I know you love it, but please, please, it's just verboten. And bring to us the radio into the living room. We will want to hear all the terrible news. Well, yes, I once again was holding my salon. We gathered and we gossiped, actually, and talked a great deal with wistful regret. We, of course, will start with a little bit of music and distract ourselves with perhaps charades. But mostly we just sat frozen in front of the radio listening. You know, by now, our relationship of over 30 years together had become one of tolerance, occasionally contempt. I asked to myself, what happened to that beautiful old passion that we once knew? It was like a dream. Want to buy some illusions, slightly used, second hand. They were merely illusions, reaching high, built on sand. They had a touch from paradise, a spell you can't explain. And in this crazy paradise, you are in love with pain. Want to buy some illusions, second hand, just like new. Such romantic illusions, and they're all about you. Too bad they all fell apart, as dreams often do. Such romantic illusions, but they just didn't come true. Well, you know, eventually the weakness of his heart gave out, and in 1945 my poor Werfel died. Oh God, more grief for my life. But as my dying child had told me, I will recover. I recover from all my tragedies. You know, I was never crazy about the refugee community in California. And so I am very happy to be back here in New York in my apartment, surrounded by all the treasures of my life. And while I do not have an army of men chasing after me, well, except for one. You remember Oskar Kokoschka? Ha! He telephoned to me recently and urged me, please, to orchestrate a rendezvous. But I looked I could not. Well, excuse me, I am forgetting. I must be drinking too much. Oh, yes, this is my good old friend Benedictine. Darlings, why not? He has always offered me a very pleasurable accompaniment to my life. My life, my life. Life. Life is what you make of it, Liebchen. Life. Don't let it get you down. Life is a game we are playing. life, the only game in town. Life is just a game we are playing. Hold to your hat, it is a bumpy ride. Take what you've got and give it your best shot. Sad but true, it is up to you and this life. Sad but true, it is up to you and this life. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, this is me now. When Alma died in 1964 at the age of 84, the great song satirist Tom Lehrer read her obituary, and he said, this was about the raciest life for its time that I had ever read about. So he sat down and composed the following song about Alma's life and her romantic events, and told it more shortly and briefly than I have here. The loveliest girl in Vienna was Alma, the smartest as well. Once you picked her up on your antenna, you'd never be free of her spell. Her lovers were many and varied from the day she began her beguine. There were 3 famous ones whom she married, and God knows how many between. Oh, Alma, tell us, all modern women are jealous. You should get a statue in bronze for bagging Gustav and Walter and Franz. The first one she married was Mahler, whose buddies all knew him as Gustav. And each time he saw her, he'd holler, "Ach, that is the Fräulein I must have." Their marriage, however, was murder. He'd scream to the heavens above, "I'm writing das Lied von der Erde, und she only wants to make love." Oh, Alma, tell us, all modern women are jealous. Which of your magical wands got you Gustav and Walter and Franz? While married to Gus, she met Gropius, and soon she was swinging with Walter. Gus died, and her teardrops were copious. She cried all the way to the altar, but he would work late at the Bauhaus and only came home now and then. She said, "What am I running a chow house? It's time to change partners again." Oh, Alma, tell us, how can we help being jealous? You should have a statue in bronze for bagging Gustav and Walter and Franz. While married to Walt, she met Werfel, and he too was caught in her net. He married her, but he was careful, for Alma was no Bernadette. And that is the story of Alma, who knew how to receive and to give. The body that reached her embalmer was one that had known how to live. Oh, Alma, tell us, how can we help being jealous? You should get a statue in bronze for bagging Gustav and Walter. You never did falter with Gustav and Walter and Franz. you. Thank you very much.